Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian, and this is The Take on this Monday morning. I apologize for not being able to do it last Friday. There was an absolutely wonderful tribute for my father, all the work that he had done in transplantation over many, many years. University of Minnesota, University of California, San Francisco, all of that, all the transplants and the immunosuppressant drugs that he created that were used for 50, 60 years in medicine. So a wonderful day, and that's why I missed out. But I didn't miss out because it was a wonderful celebration of everything he had done to save as many lives as he did over those years. So let's jump into it. So what really happened last Friday? Well, not a whole heck of a lot, other than the fact that the markets once again in the final hour decided to make an unbelievable run to the upside. You had 70 points. Yeah, 70 points to the S&P 500 in the final hour just to get back above that 3,900 level. And same thing with the Dow itself, about a 500 point gain in the final hour or so to close in the green and above 31,000. NASDAQ, it did recover 250 points, but stayed in the red, down about 30 points. So well off of those lows, but all of that happening in the final hour of trade. And we've seen that before. We've seen that time and time again, quite frankly. We'd had that previous Thursday where it was the last hour and all of Friday that really just gave a really big push at the end of the week. Well, this was just the final hour. Crude right around that 110 to 113, up in that range. I was also looking at the 10-year at about a 278. So been hanging around, it seems like somewhere between, call it that level, about 275, maybe up to a little bit under 3, but been steadily in that range now for a little while. Volatility index, we were anywhere between 28 and 33. We closed near the lows of the day down at about 29.50, still underneath that 30 level. The VXN, and I want to keep on highlighting this because the different movements that we've had, NASDAQ versus S&P 500, certainly stand out. And I think everybody needs to know a little bit more about that VXN, the volatility index for the NASDAQ. That was right around that 36 level. 52 million contracts traded on Friday. We talked about a little bit of weakness, a little bit of sluggishness a couple of days this past week. Not on Friday. 52 million contracts trading, well above where we were for an average of about 42 million contracts year to date and month of May. So that's going to change those numbers just a little bit. Apple, Tesla, both traded over 2.2 million contracts themselves. So right there alone, you've got yourself somewhere close to, call it 4.5 million. Pretty big and pretty massive numbers just out of those specific names. What were the sectors that were leading to the upside? And what were the sectors leading to the downside? Well, it was healthcare and energy to the upside. Healthcare, definitely the standout, up about 1.25%. Consumer discretion and industrials were what was really pulling on the markets on Friday. So you've got that little bit of that yin and the yang. So what were some of the names that were really moving when the dust finally settled? Well, VF Corp, one of those names, definitely had a great day. You look at Lilly, you look at Pfizer, you look at Biogen, you look also at Merck, all had a great day. As a matter of fact, Merck, the option trading in there and some of those gigantic size trades that we've seen over the last week or two, definitely starting to see those cash in as that stock has been moving to the upside with that background of the previous buying that we had seen in Merck. Also, Under Armour with a nice little bounce. You got Palo Alto with a nice bounce. CrowdStrike, Zscaler, Cisco, which needed a bounce. It got a bounce. Starbucks, Salesforce, those names all moving to the upside. On the downside, you still had a big push last Friday for Ross Stores, a negative, down about 22%. That was really getting smacked around pretty big. Then you look over at Deere getting hit a little bit along with Dollar General, those dollar stores, throw in Dollar Tree, Tesla, TJX. That was looking for a little bit of a bounce from TGX, but it was giving back some from the previous day. You also had Moderna and Boeing, semiconductors all under a little bit of pressure, AMD, NVIDIA, Caterpillar, 3M. You get the idea. You could understand where we were seeing some of the strength and the weakness, and certainly healthcare definitely buoyed those markets really, really nicely. Again, coming off of that big close on Friday, that huge move late in the session, into today. Well, it seems to be wanting to hold on right now. We'll see how long this lasts, but pre-markets, we were up about 300 points on the Dow. Last I looked, we were up about 400 points, and it's been steadily kind of moving mostly to the upside. A little bounce here and there, a little pullback here and there, but generally the path has been to the upside. So you've added about 100 points in this first hour of trade. You had the NASDAQ. It's kind of been all over the place, to be honest with you. It's been up as much as 70 points, up about 50 points, down about 50 points, back to flat, up about 50 points. It's really what the NASDAQ has been doing. And with that, you can understand why. I'm going to highlight that VXN once again, the NASDAQ volatility index. That's still trading right around that 37 level. And meanwhile, when you look at what's going on with the VIX, the measure of the S&P, it's near 30, but it's been staying mostly, or at least I had not seen it get above 30 in this first hour of trade. Crude, somewhere between, call it 110, 111. We've been watching that move for a while now. 10-year, as I said, just sort of flatlining right there at about 283. And I'll tell you, from sector to sector, it has been very interesting. The financials started off strong. They've even added to that strength, up nearly 2.5%. You had materials holding on to what they'd gained early on and starting to build a little bit on that, as well as staples. Energy is really what made the move from pushing that market a little bit higher, I think, on the Dow, because you've got a name like Chevron in there. But it was up about 0.8% or so, up about 2% now for energy. Technology, kind of the same sort of a move. It was up about 0.25%. It started moving a little bit better to the upside. All sectors early on were green, but we do have a little slippage going on. Consumer discretionary. Now, those are names like Amazon. You got a little bit of Target. You got some Home Depot in the red. You've got those names kind of pulling things down. That was down about 1%, at least early on. Big news of the day. VMware. Is VMware going to get bought? This is a cloud play, cloud company. Broadcom looks like they've been sniffing around, and it looks like there's some talks and multiple reports about that. That's been up strong since the pre-market into the trading day as we start off the day in this first hour. So what is really moving right now for us? Well, you've got Deere, you got Mosaic, you've got Caterpillar. You also have, in the financial world, you've got Citi leading the charge along with JP Morgan, along with Wells Fargo. You see the financials really making a nice power move to the upside, getting that bounce out of Ross stores as well. And then, of course, semiconductors. So I talk about some of the weakness. Well, today we've got a little bit more strength. It's KLAC, it's Applied Materials, and those big mega cap tech names like Apple and Microsoft contributing today as well. We do have some weakness, though. Autodesk, one of those names. I'm looking at Etsy. I'm looking at the cruise ships. Some names like Carnival Cruise. We had those huge put buying last week in Carnival Cruise. Looks like they maybe have found the right direction, even as this market's been making a move to the upside. They were buying, as I recall, was a June 10 strike put. So that's something to keep an eye on. But Royal and Norwegian also getting pulled along with that. Netflix, throwing a little Datadog. You look at Ralph Lauren. Boy, there's a whole long list of names that are pulling to the downside. Home Depot's another one of those names. Throw in Nike. So I've got two unusuals for you. Then we're out of here. And then we'll be back again tomorrow. We do have a lot going on. I'll be on WCCO in just about 20 minutes or so. You can do that streaming if you want to listen in. We also have ourselves that Pete's Covered Calls coming up later on as well. For those that are interested in the covered call world, something that we do each and every Monday, a big run through of everything and give everybody a little bit of an insight of what we're thinking as we look at those covered calls. Now, number one, I'm going to look at Goodyear Tire. Trading a little bit over 11 and a half. We have a buyer of 7,300 of the June 24th expiring. So you're getting some decent time here. June 24th expiring, the 12 and a half calls. Stock's a little bit above 11 and a half. They're going after 12 and a half, 45 cents up to about 55 cents. Looking for a pretty nice run, but you've got a little bit of time for Goodyear. Now, sticking with energy, you know we've been on this call for a long time. By the way, I want to clarify one thing. I was talking with folks through Twitter or whatever this past weekend and talking about energy. Now, a lot of people say, wow, we really started to move in energy when we had the Ukraine war. I beg to differ, and it's not a political statement. This is just a statement about the price of crude. And all you've got to do is go back to any one of these podcasts that we do here, go back to anything I had ever said on CNBC. The buying started in November of 2020 in the energy space. The price of oil was 38. It had been running all the way up to what happened there with Russia, then going into Ukraine, creating this Ukrainian war. But I will tell you this, yes, it was added a little bit more fuel for that move to the upside, but let's not look back and say it hadn't moved from 38 to 95, because it did. So we've been on this energy run for a really long time, adding to it again today. This one, CVE, Synovus Energy. This is an integrated energy company up in Canada. Very interesting. It's trading just underneath 22, and it was 7,900 of the June 22 calls that they were buying for $1.15 up to $1.20. 7,900 of those calls. We see this name occasionally. It's not totally foreign to us, but it's not one of the regular names that hits on a very standard sort of a balance, like we see Occidental and like we see Chevron and some of those other names. But this one does stand out for that reason, but also sticking with energy and this big move that we've had and continue to have in the price of crude. Will it continue this move to the upside? Nobody really knows the answer to that, but certainly we see that there is demand, and we know that there's a lot of different ways that takes time for the process to get oil, to get gas, to get all the different things that are coming from the energy space. So that is something that we have to keep a close eye on as well, but they continue to be very bullish across the board in energy. As a matter of fact, that was that name that I talked about as far as sectors today, making a big move, not just from the start to the finish, but from where it started to where we are in this first hour. Very, very big move, up about 2% as we speak right now. Folks, have a great day of trading. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow.